Hello. Probably it's a bit early, but I'm going to go and link this thing to YouTube or Twitter. Alrighty, so yeah, I'm a little bit early, but I was working on my next video, and just decided to start early rather than wait around for 1 minute. So hello, chat room. Hello, I see people are starting to filter in already. Welcome to the stream. So I'm sorry that last week there was no stream. I was out of town. I had to go to do a talk with at my university. So I was actually talking about YouTube and about why historians should get involved. So that was fun. All right, let's see what we got. We've got my Israeli friend. We've got Jamie Kelly. We've got Ace. All the regulars except Jamie Kelly. You sound new. I have water this time because I'm prepared. And oh my. So as man, it feels like it's been forever since I've just sat down and done a stream with you guys. So you guys, what do you want to talk about? I will say a few things, I guess, a few clearing up things. I'm going to put the Crusader Kings 2 thing on ice for a little bit. And the reason is because things are still... I still don't know. No, you're like... anyways, I still have a lot of work to do. I have quite full schedule, and I have plans, and I really have been neglecting some time with just, the family. So I'm going to back off of those for a little bit. But I'm still going to keep doing these streams because these streams are really well done and are really really good for morale, I guess. I will say that I have one idea that I don't know when I'm going to do it, but it's a thing where I'm going to try to play Quiplash with a bunch of people. I think that'd be fun. But I don't know when I'm going to do it yet. And, of course, next Sunday on the 28th, I'm going to have Isaac Arthur coming on to do Subscriber Appreciation Day. Get that super chat money. Tommy Tom, I have yet to get a super chat money. It's not a thing that happens to me, at least not yet. Who knows who will be the first? Anyways, I don't want to pressure anybody to do that. That's the thing that I don't even know how to start with. But I will say that one of the cool, crazy things that's been happening since I did my last video stream is that I've had a huge turnaround on my channel. As you can probably see if you look, there's a handful of new names in the chat, and the chat numbers are a bit bigger than they used to be. And the reason is that since the Millennial video came out, and since I started making videos every single or twice a week, I started getting a huge uptick in subscribers and views, and I'm going to turn that off. So I've been getting a lot more views as of late, and I've been getting something like 100 and something subscribers a day, sometimes peaking, I think, almost at like 200 subscribers a day. So things have been going pretty crazy. Okay, so let's see what we've got. Some people talking. So I don't know anything about the English train strikes. History of various countries' universal healthcare would be a good video set. My wife is originally from Richmond Hill, Ontario. Well, cheers to your wife. I know that place. Universal healthcare would be fun. I have had thoughts of making a video about Tommy Douglas and the fight for universal healthcare in Canada and how it happened and how difficult it was. I usually, hold on a second. I usually have a piece of paper on me for all of your video suggestions, because I don't like to miss out on those. So for those who, since there's so many new people, I will give you guys an update on what this stream is. So in the hour before a new Step Back video comes out, at least my big Thursday videos, I sit down and I talk to the audience for an hour. So universal health care. Cool. Things have been. Oh my. Okie dokie. We'll go through these things. Got a second on the universal healthcare thing. Oh man. Oh. Dark Fierce Ice, $2. Thank you so much, Dark Fierce. Oh man. How do I've never gotten a super chat before. What do I do? Is there a thing that I'm supposed to do? Thank you. I will use that $2. I will probably buy a coffee with it or something. So yeah, I think I will do. Ace got an A on his history test. Good job. I'm not sure if I helped. That's great, but you did it. You don't have to thank me. Hey, what do you think most about Tillerson saying the U.S. should have permanent troops in Syria? Can you make a quick historical analysis of? I've never heard that. This is the first time. So Tillerson saying the U.S. should have permanent troops in Syria. That's a little messed up. Plus, I don't think Syria would allow it. It's not really a thing. That's Syria. Are you thinking about making a video about Israel-Palestine? Yes, Spilbas. I am making a video about Israel and Palestine. It's on my next batch. It was actually Israel-Palestine was one of my stretch goals on Patreon that we passed last month. So I have it on my list of my next set of videos. It's going to come out in March. So the Israel video is going to come out in March. Let's see. You're going to crack open your laptop, pull the hard drive out, and try to pry the case off. You can try. Good luck. Keynesian economics and crony capitalism. What do you mean by that? Are you just saying, like, in general, that's the thing? What does that mean, permanent troops? Well, the United States tends to have military bases in various places around the world. They have permanent military occupations of several countries, most of them friendly. And usually they do it as a way to, quote unquote, promote peace, but really to keep a military presence in a lot of places. One of the reasons why Al-Qaeda got so mad at the United States is because they had U.S. military troops in Saudi Arabia. That was during the War with Iraq. Spielbus, I said I'm making it. I'm making it. It's on the way. It's coming out in March. It will be fun. I was thinking at one point of actually titling it "Why is Israel?" But I'll probably have to think about that one a little bit more. That's a difficult one, though. Will you make a video about the problem from Rome and Greece and how Tito created the Slavic Macedonian myth? I get a lot of requests about Eastern European history. I can try to look at that Slavic Macedonian myth, but I know that there's like a kind of fight, a nationalist fight over whether Alexander the Great and the Kingdom of Macedon was more Greek or more Slavic, but I can't really speak to more on that than right now. Your thoughts on the Tide Pods meme? I just heard about it this morning. I don't know how real it is, but if it's true, it's really stupid, and it's kind of sucks because people are getting sick. But yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know how it happened. I haven't done the homework. It seems like a thing that just popped out of the ground today. I thought that, okay, so they're saying that the U.S. objective should be to oust Assad, but I thought that now with Trump in charge, that keeping Assad in power was the new goal. I don't remember. We create our own demons. So you owe us an explanation about the U.S. invading Haiti under Woodrow Wilson. I can't speak too much to it because the thing is that Woodrow Wilson, unlike other presidents, never wrote, or a lot of other presidents, he had a stroke in his last year in office, and so he never wrote his presidential memoirs. In fact, he died only a couple years after he was done being president, and so he never really wrote a lot of his explanations. So there's a lot of like people reverse rationalizing what happened, but the U.S. invasion of Haiti, I could talk about. They haven't the U.S. So the U.S. In that period, in the Wilsonian period, invaded a lot of countries for the purposes of what Wilson would have said, making the world safe for democracy. And so one of the things that he did was he invaded Mexico twice. Once was basically violating the border between the United States and Mexico in order to chase down a criminal named Pancho Villa. Another time, when he was displeased with the dictatorial government of Mexico at the time, he invaded the city of Veracruz and occupied it for several months until the Mexican government changed to his liking. And then I believe he also invaded the Dominican Republic because the United States thought that the democracy in the Dominican Republic was unstable. And so they invaded the Dominican Republic, I think, a couple times. And I think Haiti they invaded for a similar reason. I don't know. It's been a long time since I read the book, but it's called Uses of Force by someone named Calhoun. And he wraps up this kind of analysis of the times that Woodrow Wilson was getting involved in other countries and what reasons he had and everything like that. But that's like the long short of it. I want you to elaborate more on that, seeing how low interest rates are Keynesian, and if we live in a low interest rate world now. Oh, well, the low interest rate thing wasn't as big a part of what I was talking about when it comes to Keynesian economics. The reason why I said that Keynesian economics would reign that period was not because of their interest rates. That was just a happenstance at the time. The economy was good because they were investing in infrastructure and they were making it really easy to get work. There's something called income or wealth velocity, which is this idea that like if you like get money and you're poor, you're much more likely to spend it than if you're a rich person who gets the same money. Because if you're a rich person, you just put it in your bank account, you might invest it, you might not. But you're less likely to use it than somebody who needs money to do stuff like buy food and pay rent and stuff. And when money is moving through the system like that, it's a way to get the economy moving again. And so Keynesian economics were giving regular people infrastructure jobs was a much more effective way of jumpstarting the economy than tax breaks for billionaires. And this has been shown to work with evidence and data. The low interest rates were in the United States were a result, in the post-war period, were a result of the really cheap borrowing situation that was going on in post-war America. I'm not sure if they were the official interest rates, but there was a program for World War II veterans that made it really easy for them to buy houses with really cheap mortgages. And that was like the thing that that I was talking about. Speaking of history of Al-Qaeda, apologies for spelling. Yeah, Al-Qaeda. I'll make that a stretch goal. That sounds like a really fun video to make a stretch goal video out of. Can you do a video on civil defense and how readiness of a nuclear strike on the U.S. is almost non-existent in terms of civilian safety? Sure. I'll write that one down. I read a book called Command and Something, or Something in Command. It's a book I read a few years ago, and it was about how the U.S.'s nuclear program works and how there's been a lot of accidents over the years that people don't talk about, like broken arrow incidences and all these kind of crazy things. How about a video on the USA's attitude towards empire in the beginning of the 20th century? So, yeah, U.S. imperial period, that'd be fun. On the different branches of socialism, man, I just feel like I'm taking down ideas. This is just like a comment deposit box. What do you think will happen in the Middle East with Turkey if at last the PKK create their own country? I don't know. I know that the Turks are pretty good at repressing the Kurds as it is. And so if Kurdistan actually becomes its own country, I imagine that there's going to be more agitation and more repression, sadly. Put a crypto public ID in your next vid. That's easy, and you'll keep most of the money. Oh man, that would be so crazy. I've never dealt with like Bitcoining stuff before, but so I would have no idea what I was doing. Hello, Fedor. Fedor is one of this channel's biggest fans. Longtime fan, longtime patron, overall cool guy. He has a channel called Phrenomythic. You go look at it. It's pretty good. Do you think the American or Canadian political system is better? I mean, neither of them are really all that great. It does seem that the Canadian system adapts to situations faster and seems to have better representation of the people's interests, but only marginally compared to the US. And that's also because we're a much smaller country. So I'm not sure if that thing would be a thing. Positivism. Here's the thing about socialism, though, is that there's so many different branches that any video on it would take forever because it's just been so broken apart. What do you think will happen with Korea? Seems like the Koreans are going to try to get along despite the US, so cooler heads might prevail. How about Halloween? I should do that. Yeah, Halloween. I could do that. I have a lot of Halloween video ideas, but one that's just about Halloween might be pretty fun. The Nordic countries. Be interesting to figure out how to do that in a good way. Did you hear about Trump's medical report? Yeah, I heard that they said he's perfectly healthy, which I don't buy as somebody who apparently drinks as much Diet Coke and eats as much McDonald's as him. I don't think so. There's got to be some, I don't know. It seems sketchy. Congratulations, you're a millionaire. Now you're a billionaire, and it's gone. Yep, that's about right. Do you think Korea will ever be unified? I think that Korea could be unified. I think that the peninsula could be unified in the future. What I think would be required to do it is for the Kim regime to fall apart, and the only way that I think that that's going to happen in a smart way is probably to see like sort of like military coup that overthrows the Kim regime, and then some overthrows to Seoul. But also, North Korea is geopolitically an important playing piece for China, so it would be a difficult situation. Comrade, step back. What do you think about democratic socialist movements, not to be confused with social democrats? It's democratic socialist movements, like the idea of bringing down democracy through reform and election. I mean, I like it more than a lot of options, but also I'm not sure to its efficacy or what bringing around socialism using the state will accomplish, but that's just me. Could you do a history of propaganda? I have a video coming out next week that it's not about propaganda, but it shows that propaganda is super old, like thousands of years old. So, you know, there's a lot we could talk about. Underrated movies. Oh my. I need to watch more movies. Make a video on the history of Minecraft Let's Plays. Oh my goodness. That's just like me, like, wait, is Minecraft even a thing with young people anymore? Like, I thought everyone's playing, like, Roblox now or something. Like, is Minecraft still a thing that people do? I have no idea. I played Minecraft for a little bit, like in 2011, early 2011, like when it was like in beta or whatever. I remember I bought it. It was like $9, and I played it for probably a good. I downloaded it and I got really excited about it, but like right before I left for a 10-day trip to Mexico, and I didn't play while I was in Mexico, obviously. But then when I got back, I started picking it up, and there was this long period where there was no new patches, and I got really comfy in that. And then I think they started gearing up for the actual release, and I sort of got distracted from it. Could you toss in a history of the public relations industry with the history of propaganda? Public relations. I mean, I could try that. What it sounds like you want me to do is summarize the book. What the hell's it called? Manufacturing Consent, which is basically about the history of propaganda and public relations. Yeah. I don't think that the Nordic countries are immune to the neoliberal chipping away at everything that's good and right and works. We seem to be dedicated as a planet to moving towards a world where nothing functions, everything sucks, and only the rich get to have any semblance of a happy life. I have no idea why, but that's a thing. Make a video about Bracco or the gazing stuff. I don't know anything about that. Other than English, what is the weirdest language you would like to learn? So at the moment, I speak English and French pretty well. I speak a tiny bit of Spanish, not a lot of Spanish, but a little bit of Spanish. And I know a few words in Turkish. But the languages I would really like to learn are, the language I really want to learn is Arabic. I really want to learn Arabic. But the weirdest language I want to learn is probably Nawa or Nahuatl. Nahuatl, which is Nahuatl, which is the indigenous language of central Mexico. It was like the language that the Aztecs spoke. When I was in undergrad, I actually was kind of deciding between whether or not to, what kind of field I wanted to go into. And one of the fields that I was really interested in was Mesoamerican history, and I was going to do pre-Columbian Mexico in like the central Mexico region. And I didn't do that simply because I was in a situation where if I wanted to do that, I would actually have to start over from scratch my entire undergrad. And I was already like 22, 23 at the time. And so to do another undergraduate degree in archaeology would have been annoying. And then I would have had to go to grad school for archaeology, and then I would have started step back archaeology, and life would have been completely different. I do want to do more videos on Mesoamerica and other native groups. What's the impact of a united Korea on to China? Easy. China would lose its control over the Korean Peninsula or whatever control it had. Could you do a video on anarcho-primitivism? That's not really a history video idea. Esperanto, that'd be fun. Allahu Akbar is just Arabic for God is great. The other Arabic words I know are like Assalamu alaikum, which means like peace be upon you, and it's kind of like a traditional greeting. Inshallah, which means like, you know, or inshallah, which means like if God wills it. So there's which is like a thing you say, like, you know, I hope so type thing. That's about all I know. I don't know much Arabic yet. I need to find a really good way to learn it, and I haven't found a really good one yet. Something on the ultimate fates of various ancient languages. You might want to check out Native Lang for that. Learn Lithuanian, the European mother tongue, or more like its first daughter. Oh, goodness. How's your week been? My week has been fun. I think that the stats on my channel have been quite crazy, but I haven't been so good at working this week, so that's a bit of a problem. What do you think about J.J. McCullough and his criticism of Canadian bilingualism? I don't know what J.J. McCullough's critique of Canadian bilingualism is, but learning a second language is useful, if only because it gets you to think in new ways. And I think that languages are really great. So I don't know what their people's problem is. What do you think about this whole Google Translate thing? What do you mean, what do I think about it? It's a useful tool, I guess. What do you think about Noam Chomsky? I like Noam Chomsky. He's a good author. He's a good speaker. He has really interesting takes on things. When it comes to like intellectuals that are alive today that I identify with, he's probably the closest. I respect a lot his opinions. I respect a lot the kind of work he's done, the sacrifices he's had to make for the kind of work that he does. It's quite impressive. And also my supervisor once took a course with, my supervisor did his PhD at MIT, and he took a class with Noam Chomsky, and he said that it was an experience. It also means I'm like, Noam Chomsky is probably the highest on the list of people I want to see do a talk before they die. I really wish that Noam Chomsky and I could know each other before he passes away. And he's quite old now, so I'm not super optimistic about that. Babel is a great way of learning new languages. Help me learn French. I haven't heard of. It's a new thing. It's a new type of language learning thing. J.J. McCullough thinks the fact that ministers have to be bilingual disadvantages English-speaking Canadians. Maybe it disadvantages English-speaking Canadians, but maybe English-speaking Canadians should just learn French. Like, it's the second language of our country. Like, a fifth of the population speaks it. Just learn French. Like, Jesus Christ, it's not hard. Okay, it's hard, but like it's not that hard. And we have like free federal programs. I learned French through a program where I spent a month for free learning French, and they paid me to do it. Like, there are no shortage of resources for learning French. And if you want to be a minister of this country that is an English and French official language country, then maybe you should be able to speak to all of the people in your country. Just saying. If you type like AA multiple times in Google Translate, it gives you a weird message about being on the board of directors. Never heard about that. Is Wikipedia a good source? Wikipedia is an okay source. Wikipedia is a great starting point if you know nothing about a subject and you want to get the brief notes on it. Wikipedia also tends to have a lot of juicy references depending upon how good the article is. So I have no problem. I have no problem with people using Wikipedia to do research. I have problems with people citing Wikipedia when they're doing research. That's the problem. But because Wikipedia articles come in various qualities. I study Wikipedia. There's actually a whole chapter in my dissertation that's about Wikipedia. And depending on the quality of the article, you can get quite a lot of great stuff out of it. Things like references, things like just general discussions, ways to get out. When I'm, I won't even lie, when I'm researching step back videos, usually if I am writing a video on a subject that I know nothing about and I just want to know like what's the general things that I should be researching, Wikipedia is a good place to start. It's a great place to find out the general big subjects in the video, and it has a good list of resources at the bottom that I can start my research process with. So yeah, Wikipedia is great. It is like one of the most amazing things that we've ever invented. I'm blown away by how much the academic community dismisses it because they don't understand it. You can speak Welsh? Now that's impressive. I don't know of anybody who knows how to speak Welsh. I've heard that Welsh is prone to having like really, really long words, though. I'm not sure why that is, but that's a thing. But yeah, if you can learn, if anyone were to ask me advice, I would say that learning a second language is a great idea, and that we should all take the opportunity if we can. Where'd the chat go? I need the chat to live. You only know Hebrew and English. Well, those are good languages to know. I'm currently doing a research on my project on my school exams for fascism. Do you have any tips? I will say there's something you can look out for as something about fascism, which is that it's a word that's used often to describe things that are authoritarian, but not necessarily fascist. But also, that argument has been used on things that are fascist to try and dismiss the fact that they're fascist. And that I think that I have the kind of unpopular opinion that fascism is not so much a cogent ideology as it is a method of undermining democracy using its own tools. If you see it like a process or as a tactic rather than an ideology, you might come to some interesting conclusions. I did that whole video on fascism. You've probably seen it if you're asking me about fascism. That I think is a good start. Yeah, if you live in Israel, you probably learning Arabic would be very useful because you are surrounded by countries that speak Arabic. Now I know it's super hard for you to leave Israel because Israelis aren't probably super welcome in other countries in the Middle East, but that's the thing. Any D&D DM advice? That's a good question because I've been working on a new show. So one of the things that I have in production is I'm starting a D&D campaign that I'm going to be doing on Twitch with some YouTubers and some other friends. And I've been reading up a lot on how to be a good DM, and I've been playing a lot of D&D lately. And I will say that the advice that I would give that I think a lot of places lack is you need to, I mean, there's some basics. There's like, you need to learn how to improvise. You need to have like your improv game on. So thinking through that, test your combats if you can before you start. So if you're designing a really hard boss fight and you're not sure if the team is going to be able to kill the monsters that you set out, try it yourself. Try playing. Like the thing about D&D is you can actually, since it's all with dice, you can play against yourself. So test out the combats, and also keep in mind that it's the player's mind, not the character's mind, and so you really need to think about emotionally manipulating your players. And this is things like, you know, draining their resources to make them super stressed out, or you know, letting them dwell in that feeling of dread when they feel like there's no solution to the problem and they're worried about dying. And you know there's a way out. They just haven't thought of it yet. Let them stew, because when they do make it out, it's going to feel so much better. You have to be very arm's length distance when you're a DM in a lot of ways, because you have to let them suffer, or else the good feelings of success will not be as strong. What D&D character are you playing? At the moment, I play D&D on Wednesday nights, and I play on Twitch, on the Dungeon Dwellers Twitch channel, and I am a dwarf monk at the moment. I had a second campaign where I was playing in person, where I played a human rogue, but that campaign has ended, so I'm no longer playing that rogue anymore. But yeah, those are the things I'm doing at the moment. Can you do a video on the evolution of cuisine? Actually, I was thinking about doing Italian food, so I will write that one down. Because food history is actually a really big thing in the history discipline right now. History of role-playing games and their origin. Got a kick out of the Paladin video. Well, Know Your Fantasy is... there's a new episode of Know Your Fantasy coming out next Thursday. So next week, there's going to be a new video. So stay tuned. And also, one of the planned Know Your Fantasy videos that I have on my list of videos to do in the future for Gary Gygax Day is going to be about classic D&D monsters, which is going to be a bit of a history about Gary Gygax and the making of D&D. I'm not sure how popular the video is going to do, but that's something that I do have a plan on doing. You'd love to learn how to play D&D. Well, luckily, all of the things you need to know how to play it are all online for free. So you can find it. And even the things that aren't free, you can find them without paying money. Could you do a video on LGBTQ monarchs in history like Gabelius and Ludwig of Bavaria? Sure. That'd be fun. I need to do some more LGBTQ history. Nerds. I like your name, Rational Skeptic channel number 985 million. Aw. I also just got some good news. My wife, my wonderful, wonderful wife, is trying to start a consulting business, and apparently she just got word that she just got her first contract. So she's now a freelance consultant. That's kind of cool. Which version of D&D do you play? I am very new to the game, so I am a straight-up 5th edition player. I only ever once played any other version of D&D, and that was 4th edition. And it was only for one weekend, and it was basically a Victoria Day weekend where we had a house rule where you could do a shot to re-roll any rolls. So it wasn't a real D&D game. We were like almost everybody was brand new to the game, and we were all shit-faced for an entire weekend, but it was fun. And I remember liking it, and then hearing later that everybody secretly hated, or everybody hated 4th edition, and I had no idea that it was a problem. I thought I was having a good time. I didn't even know that it was an edition. Like I thought that it was just playing Dungeons and Dragons. So, but 5th edition's fun. And the campaign that I'm going to be running on Twitch, which should be starting probably in March, will be a 5th edition Theater of the Mind campaign with people, so you can actually just listen. It'll be fun. Ever considered doing a video on the history of the nerdiverse community? The neurodiverse community. Oh. I've had people ask me to do stuff about neurodiversity and history, but I never know of a good way to do it. And speaking like, I am a person who would be considered neurodiverse or neuroatypical or whatever you want to call it. So I am not sure how to take that, but it's a thing that I'm not sure what to do. I have to think about how to turn into a story that is compelling. And at the moment, I haven't been able to solve that. But if I do, I'll probably do it because, you know, it touches home. Thank you guys. You guys are so nice to the wife. You won't play anything past 2nd edition. Shadowman 4710. Are you a grognard? No, it's all right. You know what? I think in 2nd edition AD&D, cool stuff. If that's you, then you know you do you. You roll them d6s. A couple more contracts, and you'll be allowed to enjoy life while she subsidizes all your needs. You'd be surprised on how close we're coming to doing that. My wife's doing pretty successful stuff in her career, and I'm a PhD student who makes YouTube videos. And if I'm not a PhD student anymore and I'm just making YouTube videos, there's a certain threshold of money that I need to make in order for that to be full-time. And, you know, probably doing some other stuff like becoming a full-time parent if that becomes a thing or something, or buying a duplex and renting it out and being the landlord or something like that. What does neurodiversity mean? Neurodiversity is a sort of newer term to talk about people who have brains that don't work the same way that other people do. Like, I'm not talking about mental illness, like things that actively destroy or hurt you or are bad for you, like things like suffering from depression. But these are things like, these are conditions that don't typically affect your, aren't typically like necessarily detrimental to your life, but they lead to you being a different type of, like a different person, a weird person. And they tend to have friction in society because they don't do it. Like for me, I have ADHD, and that means that certain tasks are harder, but there are some really good, there's some positive side effects. Doing things like this is way easier for an ADHD person than like a neurotypical person. Oh yeah, the switching of the parties, that would be a good one. That's pretty much a story of the 1912 election, but I can talk about that. For Shadowman 4710, a grognard is a person who is just a term for somebody who plays a tabletop game who won't move to the new editions. That's it. Yeah, there you go. For ACE, for example, autism or autism spectrum disorder is typically considered like a lot of people who with autism would be considered neuroatypical, because even though they do have some shortcomings that hurt them in some situations, they also tend to have other things that balance it out. And so it's a way to look at things that other people would see as disorders as not so much you being wrong, but being different. And it's a way to feel a little bit better for yourself. And I think it makes sense because, like, when you're somebody who has a disorder like autism or like ADHD, you're meant to feel like you are lesser than in a lot of cases. But it turns out that if you understand yourself and you can make your world feel like it works a little bit more for you, you can be just as effective and just as productive and amazing as everyone else. It's just that you're different than everyone else. You have to figure out how to make things work for you, which aren't going to be the ways that things work for everyone else. You tried third and you hated it. I'm very sorry. But if you have fun with second edition and you have players and you have a DM, then, you know, you're happy. Do you think the 70s oil crisis played a role in the collapse of the USSR? I am not sure. Honestly. Oh, man, why did I drink all my water? Yes. So Pathfinder is, so when 4th edition came out, there was a lot of people who didn't like it. And so there was a lot of people who were sticking to Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 edition. And a lot of the people who did that decided, or some people who did that decided to make Pathfinder, which was a way to make new content for the old edition of D&D. And now that 5th edition's out, it's kind of its own thing. So now there's like multiple things. Hey, Doughboy DeVito, where's Audible Anarchist? I don't know where Audible Anarchist is. Maybe Audible Anarchist is just out of time. Maybe, I don't know. You have PTSD. That's tough stuff to live with. I'm very sorry. DM is Dungeon Master. That is right. TSA uniform. All right. Have you watched a History Channel called The Man Who Built America? I was wondering if you could evaluate how accurate it is. It's about Carnegie, Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, and J.P. Morgan. I can talk about those guys. So I'll look it up. I haven't seen it though. But in some ways, they're sadly true. They're sadly right, because they were the people who profiteered greatly off of the original building of America's infrastructure, specifically its oil and railroad infrastructure. And yet, you know, it was a different time, and it was before the government used to, you know, try to do things about things. And honestly, they did a lot of work, but they also created an extremely unequal society. So, you know, there's problems. Do you accept the immortal science of Marxist-Leninism? Nope. Leninism is basically another form of capitalism. You can't have Marxism and the state. You can't have a communist society and have a state. They're mutually incompatible ideologies. How long before all work is done by robots? That's tough. I don't predict too far in the future before most work is done by robots, but all work is tough. Like, I was talking about a potential future where you're going to be in a situation where you might actually have television shows and like movies and novels and stuff that are generated by an AI to suit your tastes. And so there might be a point where there's no pop culture because all the TV shows that you watch are things that are made especially for you. And that's a terrifying prospect, but one that could happen in the very different future, a very far future. Yeah, I'll write down the idea of doing a neurodiversity video because it does sound something that'd be super interesting. Do you think the term squares should be the leftist version of normies? I just don't think we should have a word to say that people who are not like us are bad. I haven't watched Nightfall, so I can't really talk about it anyway. Do you have a video about the IWW? You feeling wobbly? I do. I could do a video on the IWW. I would love to do a video on the IWW. If you're opposed to both capitalism and the state, does that mean you're an anarchist? Yes. Yes, I am. Ideally, whether or not, you know, I want anarchism tomorrow is a different story, but ideally that is the direction I would like to head in, yes. I'm pretty sure you're a fan of Juche ideology, immortal science. Oh, God. I did have an idea to talk about Juche as a video topic at one point. Nice way to justify every abuse psychiatry has ever committed against schizophrenic and bipolar people. I've been diagnosed with autistic and bipolar schizoaffective by excluding them. I don't really know too much about neurodiversity and the stuff it was, but there's some psychiatric like disorders that do cause the people who suffer from them like discomfort and sadness and suffering. I'm not sure how that fits in the whole thing. I honestly am not an expert, at least not on that. What's today's video? Today's video is going to be about the Second Amendment. Should get me in a lot of trouble. Yeah, the squares don't understand the 5 layers of irony behind my support of Stalin. Yeah, maybe we should get rid of like this whole idea of ironically supporting horrible things. Maybe that's just an idea that can die. I don't know. Have you done a video on the 7 Years' War / French and Indian Wars? I have, kind of. I did a video on why is Canada different from America. It's on the Soliloquy channel. And that video is has the 7 Years' War as a central part of it, as you can probably guess. What do you think about Zeppelins? They kind of explode. Or, I don't know. I'm sure they're fun. In the days of Eugene Debs. Yeah, hold on for these kinds of subjects. There's going to be a video coming up in the next few weeks that you'll probably like. a quick step looking at the recent thaw in relations between North and South Korea. Yeah. The Second Amendment is it's a part of the U.S. Constitution that secures Americans' right to own guns. And it's gone through a lot of interpretation and change over the years. And so I decided to talk about what the founding fathers might have thought of when it came to guns. Do you believe in a person who is in pain due to a terminal disease should be allowed to die quickly, like euthanasia? Yeah, I think that if somebody is of sound mind and can consent to ending their lives, then yeah, I don't see why not. I don't like. They have autonomy over their own body. I don't see why it's our right to tell them whether or not they're supposed to just sit and suffer because we feel like it or something. I don't know. What's your opinion on gun control? I think that gun control in the age of modern militaries and drones and attack helicopters and you know, all those things, that the idea that, you know, a solo militia is going to somehow defeat the government is ridiculous. And so, honestly, gun control could, in our state, it could do more good than harm at the moment. All the arguments for defending guns for like self-defense and stuff like that have major holes and problems with them. So, did you hear about the Kurdish proxy army in the U.S. wants to create in Syria? Maybe people were talking about that earlier. Should suicide be supported, discouraged, or stopped entirely? Should clinically depressed people have the option of euthanasia? Is it not more brutal to force them to suffer despite the fact they don't want to? Those are very independent cases. I think those are very individualized things. I don't think that there's a policy that would fit everybody. The idea that suicide should be discouraged seems all right, unless somebody's suffering greatly, which is something that really only that person can decide for themselves. And honestly, when it comes to things like euthanasia, it comes down to like the problem of suicide, or like the idea that like ownership. Do you own your body, or does the government? If the government owns you, then they're the ones who can dictate whether or not you can die. But I would like to argue that the world would be better if we lived in a world where we owned ourselves, where we had bodily autonomy. So things like what kind of chemicals we put in our body and what kind of lifestyle we have, or who we love, or what we do with our lives is our own thing. And the idea that the government should have the right to step in and tell you to do something, especially if you're not hurting others, is I don't think it's right. I think it's unethical. Oh yeah, I wasn't trying to make some stupid transphobic argument. I meant like literal attack helicopters. What's your opinion on human cloning? Should I be allowed to adopt a clone of myself? Sure. Cloning is like cloning is not as weird as people think it is. It's like making an identical twin of yourself, but who's younger than you. Like it's not that weird. The technology is not quite there yet, but if it was, I don't see why that's a less valid way of reproducing than, like, I don't know, any other way of reproducing. What's the countries that you would like to visit? Well, I would love to go back to Mexico. I've been to Mexico now like 4 or 5 times, but I really want to go back to Mexico City. I really love Mexico City. I think that Mexico City might be one of my favorite places on earth. I think that I would really like to go to Seoul in South Korea. that's a place I've been wanting to. Korea is a culture that I've been really interested in checking out. I would really love to go to Istanbul. That is a city that I have had on my list to go to for decades now. And maybe Reykjavik to see like Iceland and all of its weirdness and glory. Timbuktu. I'd love to see all of the cool ancient Malian Empire stuff there. And I'm not sure where, but I would really like to visit India. I'm not sure where I would go, but there's so much cool stuff, and there's so many awesome cultures and religions and languages and people. All right, I got to go faster because we only have like 6 minutes left. The problem, Michael Kirchner, is that like disarming people and disarming police are completely different things, because the police already outgun. Like the thing is, like people seem to act like having guns is a binary thing, but like when one side has access to like machine guns and tanks, then no matter what guns you can have on the other side are going to work out. What about the situation of Catholic hospitals having to follow the right to die ruling? It's an issue in Alberta for sure right now. It depends. I mean, like I know that it's a religious organization and the religion doesn't like suicide, but also you agreed to be a medical facility, which means that you have to follow public guidelines. So I don't know. I feel like they want to have their cake and eat it too in a lot of ways. What European countries have you been to? I've only been to 2. I've been to France and I've been to the UK. And when I was in France, I only ever went to Paris and Chalt. And then when I was in the UK, I went to London, and for a brief time, I went to wherever the hell Stonehenge is. Will you lead the Clone Red Army? Oh boy. Will you come to Israel and meet me in Spielbas? Israel would be an interesting place to go. My parents went to Israel when I was a kid. I didn't go though. I would love to go. As long as it can get me in without stamping my passport, because when it's not dangerous, I would really like to visit a lot of the Middle East, especially once I know Arabic. Made a sequel to Timbuk. All right. Oh gosh. We're counting down to the next Step Back video, which comes out at 2. So we have like 2 and a bit minutes. All right, Chris Brooks, you are making sense. I have, I understand. The idea of neurodiversity is way more complicated than I can talk about in a simple stream. What do you think of Theresa May's choice to cut the police budget? That sounds nice. Have you been to the Kew Gardens in London? Maybe. I don't remember that much. I went to London. I was in London last 11 years ago. Do you know any languages other than English? I know English, I know French, and a little bit of Spanish, and a really tiny bit of Turkish. Your parents left you to travel alone and travel somewhere else? Yes. It was for my mom's 40th birthday, and they weren't going to take, I think, I want to say that I was 11 at the time, and they weren't going to take an 11-year-old to Egypt and Israel. So I instead stayed with my grandmother for 2 weeks. What's your favorite video game? At the moment, it's Stellaris. Are you a member of the Antifa HQ or just a normal soldier? I'm actually a super soldier. I have a mech. It's just over there. All right. Danku. Okay. We're getting close to the end. Do you think England will ever abolish the monarchy? Maybe. I think that might be a very real question once Queen Elizabeth dies. Who knows? I feel like if Queen Elizabeth dies and the Prime Minister is Jeremy Corbyn, you might have that conversation come up. And yes, I stayed with my grandmother, my French-Canadian grandmother, who's still kicking it in her like late 80s right now. It's the last grandparent I have left, actually. All right, I'm gonna get the thingy going. Anti. All right, it's 2 p.m. Here you guys go. Thanks, Jamie Kelly, for coming out. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I hope that you like the new video. If you like it, be sure to share it with all of your friends. Put it on your favorite subreddit. And, of course, you're already subscribed. But like it and have you guys a great time. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.